Hello and welcome back to the Game Room. You know what I love? Video games. You know what I love? Talking about games. And it seems like a lot of people these days who cover games seem to hate them. Or at least the people who play them. Well, that's not me, and that's not the 5,256 of you beautiful people checking out this video here today. Today we are taking a look at something I have not done. This is a video that's completely inspired by one of you, the viewers, specifically Wolfman9008, who dropped a huge list of Switch recommendations. And unlike other videos, I don't have any of these games. In fact, these are games that I wish I had grabbed before they got expensive. Though in a few instances, some of them aren't that expensive, I can still grab them. As well as one of these games I do have because I needed something for the thumbnail. But anyways, the reason I'm doing this is because I've been so stuck playing Graveyard Keeper, another game that he recommended this whole week. And I'm loving it. It, like I said, basically Stardew Valley. Anyways, if that sounds interesting to you and you want to see some games that I don't have that you can go and make me pay more for, let's check it out.
There's a lot of games out there, some of which you've never even heard of. That's where I come in. My name's Luke. I've been playing games since the age of 2, and I have no life.
This is my game room.
Alright, so to start off, we're going to show the game that I do have. I have yet to play it yet, and I basically had to pick up this game. For those who've been watching this channel for a long time, you know that I used to have my cat Reaper be a character on the show a lot. In fact, he would do a thing called Reaper Reviews, where he would review cat-themed games. In fact, that game, Eugenics, which I think is coming out this year finally, is the reason I even got cats. Well, there was a game that Wolfman recommended called Little Kitty, Big City. And I know that game Stray came out a couple of years ago and everyone loved it. I'll say I enjoyed it, but it didn't quite scratch that itch of being just a cat playing in a sandbox like it presented it to be. It was a lot more, cyberpunk. You have this backpack on you, interacting with robots. Well, this game apparently is a lot more grounded and down to earth, where you're just playing as a cat doing cat things. What else is there other than that? I don't know, but you're playing as a cool black cat going through a big city, hence the little biggie, a little city, little kitty, big city. And I had to get that. Yes, I do have cats. I'm not a crazy cat person, but I can pretend to be one. But that is one I wanted to grab. You can still find that. I think I got that on either VGP or Fangamer, which by all means, if some of these games I talk about today are still available, let me know, because like I said, I'm looking for the rest of them, and I'd like to pick them up. But that is one that I do know for sure you can get, and if you want to go grab it, do it. I don't have any sponsor links or anything, so I'm not making anything. Literally, I like collecting games. All right, next game. This is one that I've actually covered on the channel already. I played it on the PS4, but I don't have a physical copy of it yet, and I like collecting for the Switch, so if I'm going to get one, I'd want to have it on the Switch, and that game is Vampyre. Now, Vampyre is not a great game, don't get me wrong. You basically have an open world sort of setting where you play as a vampire and you get these named NPCs who can help you throughout the game, much like in GTA, you can have contacts who'll help you throughout the game. But at various moments in this game, you can then decide to eat them. And if you eat them, you get more powerful, but then you lock out certain options for later in the game, as well as the game itself gets harder. Sort of similar to, say, Demon Souls. When you do one thing, the world in general gets more difficult. And when I went through, I played it, did not attack anyone, did not kill anyone, went through the clean playthrough. And I can't recommend it because you're not having that much fun, but it's also one of those things where I don't like going through the game and locking myself out of potential options that I might want to look at, especially on a first playthrough. So what are you going to do? But combat-wise, it's decent enough. When it came out, it got horrendous reviews, but this is one of those cases where it's a $5, $10, $20 game. I recommend it all day long. I've not heard anything about the Switch port, so I would be a little worried because it didn't run great on the PS4. But maybe, I mean, stranger things have happened. Maybe it runs well on the PS or the Switch too. But it's just fun. It's a fun game. If you're gonna go through it just to have fun, you know, take out the people, but do be aware that if you do that, you're making the rest of the game harder on yourself. There's a low-level detective element in it too, where you're having to find out who's the bad perpetrator in this and that, and there's like a whole underbelly type thing going where you are, there's other bad actors that you're trying to uncover. But more or less, it's fun. It's a fun, dumb fun game. The combat's better. It's better than the reviews say it is, especially if you go back to the old reviews. This is kind of like an Xbox 360 game where, yes, because of the contemporaries around it, were far better. But if you're just looking for a dumb, fun time, this is a game to get. Now, another one I want to pick up, which I kind of got burned on this genre of series when I picked up No Man's Sky at launch, and when this game came out, a lot of people were comparing it to No Man's Sky, and that is Subnautica. Now, Subnautica sounds very cool. One of the streamers I watch, a guy named Preach from Preach Gaming, he played it, I want to say, and loved it. I think there's even a sequel now, or there's DLC, but I've heard a lot of great things about it. And I've not really looked into it at all, because it looks like one of those games where the more you know about it going into it, the worse of an experience you can have. But I was unaware that there was a physical edition on the Switch, and so now I'm gonna keep an eye out for that one. It sounds like it's not a randomly generated, but an underwater area, hence the Subnautica, where you're going and exploring and just kind of finding things out, and that's all I know, though. It sounds like there's a really intense story. There's tons of craziness that can happen. So it sounds interesting. It does sound interesting, and I would like to check it out more. But let me know. Is that one I should jump into? It's not super expensive. A lot of these are still floating around $30 to $60. But it's just hard. It's hard to drop that on basically a brand new game already. Especially because a lot of these probably will get cheaper before they get more expensive. Alright, next game was probably the first one on the list that Wolfman 9008 sent that really piqued my interest. Because you'll see these things where limited run games will send the emails and say, this is coming out, this is coming out. And you'll see a name, and this looks like generic this or that, or generic cover that. And it goes by and you never think about it. But then as the years go on, when someone reminds you of it and you look into it, you're like, wow, maybe that's more of a unique game or concept than I thought. Especially given that my buddy Rewind Mike was just streaming a game that was about sheepdog herding, this kind of thing. And that game is the Red Lantern. And the Red Lantern is very intriguing. Seems like you're a sled dog rider, and it's a roguelike game, so each run is different, and you just kind of, almost similar to Road 96, I imagine there's a story that happens as you're going throughout the game, the similar looking art style, but also pretty expensive. I think the physical copy is around $60, $70 still for open ones or brand new. And it's always like that. Every time I look, I'm like, oh, that one looks interesting. Oh, that's the rare and expensive one. Okay. But that looks good. That probably, of all of these games on this list, that's the one that I would like to pick up the most. I just haven't. Now, I've also picked up about 5 or 6 of the ones that he did recommend. You know, Graveyard, Little Kitty. This was the one, though, that was just a little too rich for my blood. I'm like, okay, I'll hold off on that one. I'll probably regret it and end up paying $100 for it. But you never know. But yes, the Red Lantern, if you guys have played it, let me know more about it. That one very much intrigues me, even more so than, like I said, like some of these other ones. Now, the next one we're going to talk about is technically a $5, though it's split over 2 games. And what's funny is I feel like I remember these coming out, and I was not in a financial position where I could jump on these. You know, post-COVID, I was very much, not struggling, but just had to be a little bit more cognizant of what I grabbed, so I was not buying too many Switch releases, especially limited run ones. Now I'm sort of going back and picking up a lot of those. And these would definitely be instances of that. And that is the Cosmic Fantasy Collection 1 and the Cosmic Fantasy Collection 2. So, for those of you, once again, going to the deep lore of the channel, I used to cover a lot of games that were released in Japan, or at least Japan and PAL territories that we did not get released here in the West. back in the day, I would buy, before we knew how bad these really were, I would buy reproduction carts, which sometimes would involve people harvesting like Madden 95s, that kind of thing, and then reflashing onto the ROM or creating a new ROM board, and then grabbing a English translation of, say, Bahamut Lagoon or Marvelous Never Treasure Island, Front Mission, Tales of Fantasia, Treasure Hunter G, Treasure of the Rudris, Chaos Seed, all these different types of games that we never got that are very, very good and would have done very well had the resources been there to translate them, as well as they hadn't been super, super expensive or developers not get burned like Enix did, hence why we didn't get Terranigma, things like that. Well, this looks to be 5 games of that ilk that all came out on the TurboGrafx 16. Now, I don't know if it's the TurboGrafx 16 CD or what, but they all just look like that era of game. More so the Enix, the non-Squaresoft, that kind of thing. It looks more like Burning Heroes a little bit, but they're old school turn-based RPGs, and once again, something that's right up my wheelhouse. I love those kind of games because you can just play it while you're listening to something else, and you don't have to worry about losing your thought on what the podcast is on while you're playing it, but you're still having enough to enjoy going through the motions. At least that's how I tend to do it. And these are 2 that are expensive. I definitely regret not grabbing them when they were cheaper. I think they're around $100 each, something like that. I could be wrong. At least that's what I remember. But those are definitely 2 that I will be scouring conventions for and have rocketed up my list as far as games to look for. As is everything TurboGrafx just gets very, very expensive. Thank God I got the TurboGrafx Mini. I got the Analog Duo. Even though the Analog Duo, I've never even opened the damn thing, because in my game room, I don't have any room for it, which I need to do an overhaul. I need to do a game room tour, too. I know you guys, let me know. Is anyone else interested in seeing that? Maybe for Christmas this year. I think the last time I did it was December of 2020. Maybe we'll do an update of the game room tour here. It's been about 5 years. I think that's a good time. Anyways, those are 2 that I definitely want to pick up. All right, next game is a game that I did download. Once again, I don't usually download these, and to be honest, I did not enjoy it. But once again, I will talk about games that may not be for me, but might be for you guys. And that game is the Legend of Zelda Cadence of Hyrule, or Crypt of the Necrodancer Cadence of Hyrule. Basically, it's called Cadence of Hyrule. It is a DLC for Crypt of the Necrodancer, which is a game that was very innovative when it came out. I did not pick it up, but it was one of those indie darlings that you hear about that it just, much like Celeste or Fez or something like that, where it's got a good following, so a lot of people have some good buzz about it. And then they did the unthinkable and got Nintendo to license out the Zelda IP to make basically a themed game. And at this point, they made a standalone purchasable copy that had this and I think the original game on it. The big gimmick being you can play as multiple characters, but the way it works is that when you go through the overworld, the enemies move in rhythm to the music, and then you move in rhythm to the music, and you can only attack this way, and you can only do certain options and certain things this way. And it was just one of those things where, once again, back to the way I like to play games, I like to be able to listen to something else, and this is a game where you cannot listen to something else. You have to listen to the game, and so that might have irked me a little bit. Though, honestly, it's one of those things where I'm a huge Zelda fan, and as much as I complained about this is another instance of give it another shot, do a Hated Gems on it. Maybe it's better than I thought, and a lot of people love it, and it's just one of those things where it's going to be collectible just because it's Zelda. It's a Nintendo made thing, and it's just cool all around. Like, the story around this game is very, very cool. So that is one to grab if you're at all interested, as I think that's getting up there as well. Now, this next one has me insanely interested, but it is another one that's a little bit just too pricey for me to really pull the trigger on now, which I probably should, because once again, as always happens, I'm likely going to regret not getting it. But that is Mother Russia Bleeds. And Mother Russia Bleeds is a beat-em-up. Now, it's probably a beat-em-up in the vein of Scott Pilgrim as far as being one of those download-type ones, not as much Street Fighter 4, which I love. So that has me hesitant on it, but this is a game where you're playing as some badass Russians, and it is over the top violent, like Broforce violence, ridiculous violence, that kind of thing. From what I've seen, and I've looked in, as soon as I read those few sentences, I'm like, okay, I don't need to know anything else about this game. I already know I want it. I will have a blast with it. It's just a little too pricey to jump in. I think it's around $70, $80, $60. Like, once it gets above the original 40 to 50, because you can buy those from limited run like 40 to 35, 50, and then most of these you can find for included shipping, or if you're getting at a convention, something like that. So it's hard to bite the bullet on that for a Switch game where it's like, man, oh god, is there gonna be a reprint, this or that? I'm learning about VGP, I'm learning about the Fangamer, these and that. Like, well, oh god, that game was already available, why would you overpay? Same thing, I managed to pick up a copy of Rain World the other day from I think a Fangamer reprint or a VGP, which thank God, because that got super expensive too. And it's just like, I want to try these games out. But anyways, Mother Russia Bleeds, very violent, very over the top, a cool looking beat 'em up, one that I definitely wanted to grab, and I think you guys should go grab it too, so you make it more expensive for me when I eventually pull the trigger on it. Alright, next one here, getting down to the last few. So this one, I don't have the Genesis game that this is a remake of. I have most of the remake games from the 16-bit era on the Switch. This is one of the few ones I don't, and that is the Rocket Knight Adventures Resparked? Yeah, Resparked. That's what it's called. Now, Rocket Knight Adventures, which I know was also part of the Sparkster series, people love these games. It's like Rystar or something like that, where there's a cult following of this mascot character. It just never took off across the board, and it kind of just disappeared. I don't think Rocket Knight made it to the PS1 era. I think he truly was stuck on the Genesis, Sega CD, that kind of thing. And the game itself is still pretty reasonable for the original. Sparkster, forget about it. Sparkster is very expensive and not as good from what I've heard. But you play as a cute little mascot dude and you're going around levels, platforming. Like it's a mascot platformer. There's not really much to it. But the Resparked remake of it is just taking the original game, I think. But once again, all the other ones that I've played really weren't. You know, like they would do it in theory, but then it's more like the arcade, or they add new modes, or they add new characters. So let me know, is that one I should jump on? I don't think it was super expensive. I think I could find that one pretty reasonably priced. I just was hesitant after buying like 5 or 6 of these. I had to slow down because I was spending more than I had anticipated at that particular time. Kind of like how you guys probably feel after you're watching these videos from the comments I see. Sorry again. All right. And then the next one we're going to talk about, this was another game, you know, I see RPG in it, Metroidvania in it. I'm like, okay, you're getting my buzzwords flowing. And that game is Monster Sanctuary. Now, Monster Sanctuary has that good, cool 2D art style, kind of Shovel Knight kind of art style look. But then I was a little concerned, is this going to be like Pokemon, Monster Rancher, which I'm sure it is. But it sounds interesting, had good reviews. It's just another one where I think it was getting around $50, $60, $70 for a complete copy. And I just had to tap out after getting, 3 or 4 games already. But that is one that I am very much interested in as well. All of these, another, like the ones that are not like Vampyre, Subnautica, like all of these tend to be limited run releases. A few of them I think were super rare games. But anyways, like the limited games, that's why they're expensive. But let me know more about this one if you guys have played it. Is this one I should move up the list? Like I said, I think I'm looking at Red Lantern and Mother Russia Bleeds more than any of them. But this one looks good. And then the last we're gonna talk about is one that I'm kind of on the fence about, though I believe I can still pick it up on Amazon for like $15, $20. So to be honest, I probably will pick it up before I put this video out. But that game is Indivisible. And Indivisible, art style I'm not crazy about, but it looks like a turn-based RPG game, but it's a side-scroller, giving me a little bit of a memory burn with Owlboy, which was a game I did not like, though there was another game I played recently, I think, that had that kind of style that I did enjoy. So what are you going to know? You can't write the game off all that much completely, but it looks good. It looks interesting. Turn-based RPG. Now, there were a bunch of other games that were mentioned too, so I'm not just saying these are the only ones to look at. These are just the ones that piqued my interest. and Indivisible looked nice. Like I said, I'll probably pick it up. And sorry again for not really getting too deep into these games. Once again, I've been playing Gravekeeper a lot, which not to talk more about that game, but it is a lot of fun. Thank you, Wolfman9008, for all the suggestions, allowing me to vamp an entire episode. And all you guys for coming back and watching these videos, leaving your comments, going back on the old videos. It's nice. I had someone comment on my 1998 was the greatest video in gaming, or greatest year in gaming video, which I truly do believe it was the best, if not one of the best. Go watch that video if you don't believe me. So many great franchises, games, pinnacles of franchises came out that year, especially when you factor in US releases versus Japanese releases, which at the time would happen a lot, where we would get a game, say, 6 months after the Japanese release. So even though it came out in 97, here in the States it technically came out in 98. Like Final Fantasy Tactics came out in 98 here in the States. But anyways, if you are interested in more of that type of content, let me know. Give me some year suggestions. I think I've only covered 98 and 2004. Those were two of the big ones. One that I would mention would be 2017. That was a fantastic year. But I want to know, what else do you guys think? Because I've been playing them. I've been playing games since 86. So I remember most of these years pretty damn well. But anyways, as a reminder, I release a new video every Tuesday. It's been so nice getting a hold of you. Take care.